Feeling stuck or unfulfilled? Searching for more meaning in your work and life? Wondering what's next? You're not alone, and you're in the right place. This is Focus on Why, the podcast that turns reflection into action. I'm Amy Rowlandson, and each week I dive deep with guests who've chosen to live and work with purpose. Together we explore what drives them, shapes their decisions, and gives their life meaning. Through real stories and honest conversations, you'll discover how to gain clarity, make confident choices, and create a life that truly matters. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why. Do you understand the power of a focus on why in business? Are your people truly engaged and finding meaning in their work? I deliver practical, interactive workshops that boost engagement, fulfillment, well-being, and purpose, all key drivers of higher productivity and performance. If you're ready to close your purpose gaps, reach out via the link in the show notes today. Today on Focus on Why, I am joined by Eleanor Sands. Eleanor, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm delighted to have you on the show. And let's kick it off with, what is it you're focusing on right now?
So, the majority of my time at the moment is spent on growing a business called Wigmore Wednesdays. So, up until summer last year, I was working in large corporate organizations, and I'd never really found something that really fulfilled me or something that I was passionate about. Anyway, I turned 30 last summer and I thought enough was enough. I'm going to do something about this. And I was actually out walking my dog, Hugo, one day and handed in my notice and I started doing some consulting. But as well as that, a friend and I had set up something called Wigmore Wednesdays, which was a monthly meeting point in London where senior leaders could come together from across the commercial real estate community to meet on a more regular basis to grow their relationships and potentially meet some new people. And anyway, over the course of the last 9 months, that's grown massively. We've since listed it as a business and opened the bank accounts, and we're now growing into other cities and we do have larger events as well. So, yes, as well as the commercial real estate consulting, I'm running Wigmore Wednesdays and delighted to say that I have found something that I'm passionate about. So, that is all good.
It is good. And that moment when you decided enough was enough, you were out walking your dog. What do you think was the reason it was then that you decided?
I suppose, yeah, 30 is obviously a milestone in most people's lives. So potentially it was that. But I mean, I'd been pretty unhappy in my job for over a year and had been discussing with friends and family and my partner at the time as well about how unhappy I was but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I think a lot of people probably feel like that is they know they're not happy where they are, but they don't quite know what it is that they do want to do. So much over the course of that year, I'd had conversations with sort of friends and yeah, my partner, and just they'd said, come on, you need to do something about it. This is sort of ridiculous. But I just I just didn't know what I could do about it really. So yeah, I suppose I'd gone away for my birthday last summer and I got back and like you said, I was out walking my dog and I think I was actually on the phone to my mum and I just burst into tears and I just said, I just can't do this anymore. Like it's not making me happy. In fact, it's making me really unhappy and I cannot carry on living like this. So that was that. I went back inside and I wrote a letter and I think I shared it with a friend of mine who was a lawyer and I just said, what do you think about all of this? And I think everybody, including my partner at the time, had said, that is ridiculous. Like, what are you doing? But I knew in myself that I'd be okay even if I did quit the job because I could always go and find something else. Like I've always had that ability to go and find something else. So yeah, that's what I did. And I can honestly say that the moment I sent that letter, I felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. The sun actually came out, and which was, I suppose, just what it does, but it felt like it was a moment. And I felt instantly happier because I suppose I'd taken control of that situation. And I suppose for that period of time where I was so unhappy in the role that I was doing, I felt possibly out of control because I didn't quite know how to fix it. So that was, I suppose, the first step in a positive direction towards making a change. And yeah, I think like lots of things in life, when you want to make a change, you can listen to as many people as you want, friends, family, or otherwise, but actually it has to come from you. And until you're ready to make that change, yeah, it doesn't generally happen. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. Much, much happier and very fulfilled in what I'm doing. So it was obviously worth it.
And you said you finally found something that you're passionate about, and the feeling now is one of being fulfilled. Are there, looking back, various signs pointing towards this being your skill set, this being something that you would enjoy?
Yeah, so when I left school, I didn't go to university. I actually failed most of my A levels. Despite being an intelligent person, I was just always shocking at exams. And I didn't want to just go to any old university. I could have just gone to a university. But if I wanted to go to university, I wanted to go into one of the Russell Group universities. I've always been really passionate about sports. I was a rower at the time. So I wanted to go actually to Exeter because they had a great rowing team there. So I think I felt like if I couldn't go there, I didn't want to go anywhere. Anyway, so instead of doing that, I went and I'm a really keen skier. I've skied pretty much all my life. So I decided to go and be a chalet girl. And so I suppose that was my first kind of point in my life where I was doing that kind of hosting and organizing. So, having just turned 18, I went out to the French Alps and I was looking after 12 adults. I mean, how or why they gave an 18-year-old a chalet of 12 adults, I really don't know. And I'd never really done much cooking before. I'd done a lot of baking at home. My mum's like a fantastic cook, so she'd always sort of got us involved over the years. So I was really good at that bit, but I was really good at the hosting. People that came and stayed in the chalet, they used to leave me notes when they left, being like, oh, wish we could adopt you as our daughter type thing. You've been fantastic. And I just really, really enjoyed it. And to be honest with you, if you could earn lots of money out of being a chalet host, that was really what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. But you don't earn much money. I think I was earning maybe £300 a month at the time, which doesn't get you very far. So yeah, that was kind of my first experience. I've always loved hosting all throughout the last decade where when I first moved to London, I was living in house shares. We would always have parties that I would sort of get behind and organize. And then as I've got older, certainly my last relationship, I loved hosting and like doing cooking and that kind of thing with friends at my place in London. And then I suppose really coming on to recently, like my 30th birthday last year, I thought, I'm not married yet. I'd also had a really difficult childhood and period of time in the lead up to that 30th birthday of the last decade, which we can come on to. But I decided that I was going to have a big party in the south of France, which is one of my happy places. I had 25 friends come out, and I thought, well, it's a big expectation to ask them to come out to France to celebrate me. Quite selfish, but I thought, do you know what? I'm going to create a website. So I bought the domain called canyouparty.com and built the website, planned it all out. I went out ahead of the party. I actually knew quite a lot of the bars and restaurants from going to a real estate conference, MIPIM, over the years. But that whole process, I mean, I think we started planning it in March of last year. The party was in August. And everything from designing the website to where we were going to go, what we were going to do, the logistics, I just absolutely loved doing it. And then the party was amazing and everybody loved it. And I thought, "Do you know what? I'm actually really good at this." So I suppose when I did come to leave my job, I thought, and I actually posted about it on LinkedIn. I think one of the things I said was something about events, still wanted to stay in real estate. But anyway, yeah, I suppose now I've got that combination of still using a bit of my experience from the last 12 years of a career doing the sort of consulting side, but on the Wigmore Wednesdays side, I'm getting to use that creative side that I've obviously got of that hosting and sort of bringing people together. And yeah, that's what I find really fulfilling. So yeah.
I can hear that. And that connection and presence and creating those meaningful bonds and meaningful experiences for people. What's important for you about doing that?
I can't really describe it, but for lots of people, they would hate it. Like I have so many friends that would just be like their worst nightmare, being in these social settings and talking to people that you don't know. But ever since I mean, probably even like as young as 14 or 15, I've always loved talking to people and being able to just talk to anyone. And the idea of walking into a room and not knowing anyone doesn't bother me at all. I've always been really curious about understanding other people and what makes them tick and what they're interested in. I've always been a really good listener. So yeah, it does for me, it really does something. For a lot of people, social environments are a real turn off and they suck energy out of them. But for me, it's the total opposite. I get so much energy and fulfillment out of talking to people, bringing people together. I love nothing more, like at Wigmore Wednesdays. I know at the moment, whilst we're still a manageable number, growing every day, but I do know most people that come to Wigmore Wednesdays. And I love being able to stand in that room, see someone walk through and go, I know exactly who you need to speak to. Come with me. And then I'll be like, I won't go over and give a whole spiel. I'll just be like, John, you really need to meet Deborah. I'm just going to leave you to it. And I know they need to talk. I just know that they can help each other and that they would get on. And I suppose, yeah, that's what I really love doing. And I get to do that a lot through the work that we're doing with Wigmore Wednesdays and what we're creating.
Often when I speak to my guests, Eleanor, there is a lack or something that was missing early on in life, which is now what they fill their time with. Does that make sense for you that that might have been something you didn't have?
Not really. No. No, I don't think it's come from a place of that. I think I'm just naturally, that's how I'm wired. There was nothing really that happened that I had a lack of connection that's made me drawn towards connection in any way. No, yeah, I've always been someone either through sport, I was playing loads of sport growing up, hockey, running, rowing, netball. I was the one that did everything. I mean, even as young as like I can remember when I was in secondary school, we used to play a bit of tag rugby. And at one point I wanted to actually be a PE teacher when I was younger. And even when I was like in years 8 and 9, my friend Georgia and we went back to my primary school and we were coaching tag rugby for the primary school children on a weekly basis. Even as young as that, I was wanting to do things that would bring people together.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. So it is definitely something that there's a through line for you. You mentioned earlier that you had a difficult childhood and you said we could come back onto
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Is that something you wanted to share? Is it relevant for this moment?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not something I've ever spoken about. Friends and family do know about it because I do talk from time to time about it. So, I suffered really serious sexual abuse as a child from the age of 14, but I mean, the contact with the person started as young as 9. And I was basically abused by this person for pretty much all of my childhood. The person's now serving a prison sentence. I didn't obviously tell anybody about this. And in fact, the only reason the person is in prison is because actually the police came knocking on my door when I was about 19, to ask to help them with an investigation. And it was only at that point did I realize the severity of what had been happening really to me. And I think throughout my whole life, I have always wanted to change my story. I've never wanted that to be where it ended. I think for a lot of I mean, it was really bad. And I think that for a lot of people, it could have really destroyed them. And I think for me, that instead of allowing that to destroy me, I have used it as the fuel and fire that has driven my success. I mean, I started working in London when I was 19. I was earning over £100,000 a year by the age of 26. I actually remember the day that I got one of my contracts through for my new jobs, and my dad rang me and he said, "You do realize you're now earning more than the Prime Minister?" And I think friends and family have always been so amazed. I mean, at such a young age, I was so successful. I mean, I bought my first flat at 24, my second flat in London at 26. And yeah, for a lot of my younger years, my friends on my level at my age would just be like, we don't understand like where she gets this from. Like it's so incredible. But like it came from a place of such pain. Like it was, it was really bad. And it really affected not just obviously my childhood. When I look back on my childhood, don't get me wrong, I had an amazing childhood from a family perspective with my parents and, siblings, but I look back and all I can remember is what happened to me, and that I will never be able to forget that. And it's something I think about all the time. It's continued to impact pretty much my whole life. And I think when I got to 30, so what the whole investigation, which led to the prison sentence for this person, it went on for the best part of 6 years. So from the point that the police first contacted me to his sentencing, yeah, it was a really long period of time, and throughout that time, I was obviously working. I mean, I was 19 when they first contacted me, and I was 27, 27, I want to say, when I went through the whole Crown Court process and everything. So maybe it was even longer than that, the investigation. But can you imagine, for pretty much all of my 20s, I was in and out of contact with the police, whether that be evidence, going in, doing victim statements. So all the while I'm trying to enjoy my young life in my 20s, not only have I endured for pretty much my whole childhood all of this abuse, but I'm now having to continue the reminder of what happened pretty much throughout my whole 20s. So I think when I turned 30, I was just so determined to just close that chapter, because as a victim of abuse, and there may be lots of people listening to this who have suffered abuse, it doesn't ever leave you. And I think that it's brilliant that I've got justice, so to speak, that the person's serving a prison sentence, but the actual sentence is for the victim because it's for their whole life. And that's something that really bothers me. And so when I did turn 30 and I was in such an unhappy place in my job, just before I'd taken that specific job, I'd actually quit the job before that. Not many people know this, because when it got to the Crown Court and I went in and had to give my victim statement, I mean, it almost killed me. I'd never really cried about it. I'd never really thought it was real. But I can tell you, when you're standing in Crown Court in front of your family who are sitting there in tears with your, I don't know what they call the is it the perpetrator in front of you? I mean, I really wouldn't wish that upon anyone. And I, yeah, at that point, I actually quit my job because I just felt I needed to have a break. And instead of taking that 3 months and figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, I think I was approached very quickly by another company. And in hindsight, I should never have accepted that role. I should have taken that time for myself to go away. I actually went out to France. I spoke to you about my love of skiing, and I went out to France and I climbed Alpe d'Huez, cycling on the bike, which was amazing. The mountains have always provided a huge sense of escape for me. And yeah, I did jump a bit too quickly back into a job, and I think that was probably one of the things that made me so unhappy in the job, is because I always regretted that I just took it. You know, it was sort of handed to me on a plate, and I thought, well, if you're being offered a job, you should probably take it. The money wasn't as great, but I thought, it's better than not having at all. I have a mortgage in London. But yeah, when I turned 30, for me, it was a real point of closing that chapter and freeing myself from that 15 years of pain and carrying on with my life. And I didn't want that to define me anymore.
And you mentioned earlier about the taking control element
Mm.
and how important that was for you to make that decision for yourself, even though others said, "Oh, it's ridiculous to do what you're doing." But actually, it sounds like you just hadn't even had a moment to breathe at all for yourself.
No, I think I've always been such an ambitious person, even from a young age with the sport. I mean, I remember when I was like in primary school winning like cross country races, and we had Kelly Holmes come in. She just won her double Olympic gold, and the spotlight was sort of on me because I was impressive at sport from a really young age. So I think that ambition was always there because I was like that from before, when, when I was 9 years old and first came into contact with this person that went on to, do whatever he did. But yeah.
So now, Eleanor, with focus on why, the desire to bring people together, to know that you're making these introductions, that you don't need to say very much, you just need to make sure that people are in the room together. What is
Mm.
it you want to achieve from this bringing of people together in this way?
I suppose Throughout my career, like I've attended so many events, whether that be just normal networking events or larger conferences. And so in our sector, we have two huge conferences. One is called MIPIM, which is in the south of France, where about 30,000 people from across the globe descend on the south of France in Cannes for a week. And there's an exhibition, but there's also a lot of networking that goes on. And there's another one in the UK called UK Reef, which does a similar thing, but it's in the UK. And through my attendance across all of these events, I've always felt like it's great when you go to the event, but what after? And particularly the one in the South of France that I've talked about, where you tend to go, you meet these amazing people, but then you come back to London, you all have your separate lives, and unless you're working on a deal with them, you're not probably likely to bump into them again until the next year. So partly I wanted to create something so that there was a touch point throughout the year, but also, I think I've experienced that despite being the confident person that I am, and how I'm so confident after everything that's happened, I genuinely don't know. But I've obviously got incredible inner strength. But sometimes I've attended events and I've felt like I've not deserved to be there, or some people might not have been very welcoming, or, as a woman, when you're talking to potentially a guy, all of those sorts of things that everybody feels when they go to any kind of event. As humans, we all have those normal feelings of nervousness and anxiousness. For me, I wanted to create an environment where it doesn't matter whether you're man, woman, wherever you come from, whatever you do. Obviously, typically our community are like age bracket 45 to 65, I would say, because they're at the top of their careers. But I just wanted to create somewhere that was really inclusive, really welcoming, where people would leave and go, God, you know what? They are just such nice people. And yes, I don't know if I'm going to do a deal with him or her, but she also plays tennis. And now I've got someone I can play tennis with. And you never know, through playing tennis with that person, we might then go on to do some business together because we're building that natural relationship. And for me, that I just think is so important. And I really do think we've created that. I don't know whether it's because it's Annabelle and I. So I do have a co-founder, Annabelle, and we're both quite similar personalities in that we will talk to anyone, make people feel welcome. But yeah, that's really what I wanted to achieve, be known for that place where people could come on that regular basis, mix with really nice people, not have to feel like anyone's going to be rude or disrespectful to them, because I felt that that was missing. And I thought, do you know what? I think I'd be a really good person to do that, because I think although I'm very direct and very confident, I'm an extremely good listener, and I am really emotionally intelligent. And I think that really helps me when it comes to introducing people and making people feel at ease, because through being able to be an excellent judge of body language, I just think I am just very good at bringing people together and making them feel like they deserve to be there and all of that kind of thing.
So, what's the vision long term?
The long-term vision. I often joke about this, but it's not a joke. My grandma Mavis, she sadly in the last 10 years of her life developed dementia. And for the last 6 years of those, she was in her care home and didn't leave her room pretty much. And I had to witness that. And it was heartbreaking, as lots of people have to witness with family members in that situation. And so I suppose for me, when I'm in her position, when I'm 80 or 90 in my dementia care home, I want to look back and be proud of what I created. And Anna, I've got the co-founder Annabelle as well. And so I want to be sat there when I'm 80 or 90 or 100 or whatever old it is, in that care home. And I want Wigmore Wednesdays to still be going. I want us to have launched in all of the major cities in the UK, these socials, gatherings. We have two larger events called the Great British Real Estate Garden Party at the Hurlingham Club and the Winter Ball at the Langham, which are more kind of celebratory events. And I want them to still be going. And I want hundreds of people to have been connected via Wigmore Wednesdays. And I want the generation at the time that's going to the MIPIM or the UK Reef to be there and people to say, "Oh, how did you meet?" And they go, "Oh, we met through Wigmore Wednesdays." Like for me, that would be like total success. And it's also already happening now. I know people who've had deals out of Wigmore Wednesdays. And, when I go to events, there are people that a few months ago didn't know each other, and they now arrive and immediately they're drawn to each other, and they did meet through Wigmore Wednesdays. So that would be ultimate success, having these city socials that are still going in 30 and 40 years time, and these larger flagship events. And yeah, I suppose leaving that legacy of bringing people together in that really welcoming, nice format, that for me would be real success. And then also, I've always said to people, one day I'll be a CEO and I'll stand on a stage in front of a group of people and I'll tell my story. And I suppose I'm kind of telling you now. So not on a stage, I'm sat at my desk. But I I also want, through my story of my childhood, I want to be an inspiration for other people who have suffered similar traumatic events in their lives. I want to be a source of inspiration to them through my success, to prove to everyone that no matter what happens to you, anything is possible if you put your mind to it. What happens in your childhood does not have to determine your future. And that for me would be like total success to do that.
So you've just mentioned ultimate success, real success, total success.
Yeah, they're all the same thing, but I guess. But
Well, how do you measure all of those?
well, obviously with Wigmore Wednesdays, that's pretty easy because once we've launched in the cities that we'd like to launch in, and those events still going in 10 years' time, that's success. Hopefully that by then we'll have a team, and there's only one of me and there's, one of Annabelle. At some point, we're going to have to get people involved to help us grow Wigmore Wednesdays because we can't be in 5 places at once. So that would be success when that, I think looking back in 10 years' time and going, that was amazing. And look what we've created and it's still going. And, I'm able to go on a skiing holiday and that's still able to run without me being the person that's bringing people together. So finding those other people that are like Annabelle and I who can also bring people together. So that will be success from a Wigmore Wednesdays point of view. I think from the personal point of view of using my story to help other people who are victims, I would love to, when I went through the investigation, I always said to the police at the end, I said, if you would like anyone to come into schools or work with any community groups, please let me know. That they actually never reached out. I don't know why, but that would be something I'd like to do, or some charity work. I'd like to really work with victims that have suffered similar abuse to me, who are really struggling and potentially haven't got that inner strength and self-belief to go on and be successful, because it really has ruined their life from the perspective they are unable to do that. I would love to work with some of those people to unlock that belief and help them to live a life that's successful in whatever way that might be. So that would be success in that sense.
And are you encouraging people to feed back what it is that they're doing as a result of connecting with you? Have you sort of showcased that as being something that you want to hear? Please share with me what happens after tonight.
Do you know what? We're really lucky in that I often get little WhatsApp text messages from people out of the blue just to say, I had a lovely one from a lady that I'd met at MIPIM a few years ago. She's a mum and runs her own super successful business. And just out of the blue the other day, I had a message from her just saying, I'm so proud of you. Because lots of people do know what happened to me when I was younger. And there have been other events that have happened throughout my career. I had a really bad experience one year at one of these conferences. So just after I had gone through the whole Crown Court process, obviously the sentencing had happened. I then had not the same, but a similar type of situation where I was something had happened to me at a conference, and that then sort of was just like, what the hell is going on? Is it something to do with me, or blah, 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 blah? So through these types of things, lots of people within my circle do know about what happened and has happened since. So I often do get messages from people. So I suppose going back to your question, luckily I get those and I don't necessarily always have to ask for them. We're also made aware from time to time of deals that are going on and conversations. We sometimes see people at our socials leaving to go outside to have a conversation with someone they may have just met, to have that private conversation. So I think I saw something on LinkedIn the other day where one of the conferences, UK Reef, had posted about a development that had been able to take off. I don't know, can't quite remember the scale of the development, but it was like a multi-million-pound deal or something that was going on, and that would not have happened without their conference. So I suppose as and when we start getting those coming out of Wigmore Wednesdays, I think that would be really good as well, because that shows, that what we're doing is working. So, yeah, I don't know if that totally answers your question, but
Yeah, I mean, it's more a case of just by organizing these events and bringing people together, you may not ever hear what happens as a result, but it doesn't matter because you know that you've been the instigator and that is enough for you right now.
yeah, I mean, I do know, like, without people having to tell me, I watch it happen. So, in a way, it's lovely to get feedback. And often, because I'm such a confident person, people will often say, "Oh, I don't know if you want me to tell you that I'm proud of you or whatever." And I'm like, "Of course I do. Like, I'm human. We all want that. We all want to be told that what we're doing is great and they're really enjoying what we're doing. Like, that is great." But I don't necessarily seek that, because I can see that from taking a step back at our socials. You came to our Leicester social and brilliant a speech that you did. And I was so nervous on the train there. Like, I do still get nervous. I might be confident, but like I do get nervous. And on the train there, I thought, oh God, like, Leicester, like, I don't really know Leicester that well. Like, I do know some of the people here, but I don't know all of them. Are we going to be able to replicate what we've done in London? And there was a moment at Leicester on that launch night a couple of weeks ago where I think it was actually when you were speaking and everyone was sat around and was listening to you. And I just sort of sat to that one side and I looked up and everyone was so engaged. And then when you finish, because you're never quite sure, especially sometimes, I think on the, sorry to say this to the guys out there, but sometimes they don't like some of the things that us women want to talk about, or too emotional and blah, blah, blah. But it was so amazing to sit there, because I think that night there were quite a few guys. I mean, it's probably like 70% guys, 30% women. We are normally, I would say, more like 50-50, but all of them were just so engaged. And like, I didn't need anyone from that night to come and tell me that they had a great time or whatever, because sitting there and watching their engagement made me feel like so amazing. And that was enough. I was just like, that was a really special moment for me.
It's a real buzz, isn't it? It really fills your pot when you have that almost fly on the wall in your own event. You're able just to sort of step outside of it and just look and just absorb it. And yeah, it's an incredible feeling for sure.
Yeah. And also randomly, like, so we have a mailing list. So we're almost at, I think, 500 companies now on that mailing list, and it grows by about 3 companies every day at the moment. So and I'm like, when I say we at Wigmore Wednesdays, it is basically me running it, because Annabelle's also got a full-time job. So her time is more limited. But when people are going on our website and clicking, can we be added to your mailing list? Like, it comes to me. I'm the person that responds and says, thank you so much for your interest in Wigmore Wednesdays. We can't wait to welcome you. So yeah, I suppose the fact that we're constantly getting people that are attracted to what we're doing, that is a really nice feeling as well, because you know that what you're doing is creating value and people want to be part of it.
Well, what better perfect segue to say, how does someone get onto that list? Share what's the best way?
Yeah, so I mean, anyone, well, I say anyone, we are a commercial real estate community focused on executives within the sector. So director, partner, managing director, CEO. And I said before about our age range. So typically it's sort of 45 to 60, even though I'm not 45 or 60. So sounds quite double standard saying that. But you can go onto our website, and on the front page, you've got join our mailing list. If you click that, it will open up an email and that will come directly through to me. I'm sure as we become busier and busier, it won't come through to me. But yeah, that's how you do it. And then we'll add you to our mailing list. At the moment, it's quite manual, as you know, like with anything when you start out. But yeah, it's as simple as that.
And how else might people connect? We'll put all these links into the show notes, but LinkedIn, where else?
Yeah, so in terms of social channels, the only one that we're on is on LinkedIn/Wigmore Wednesdays, and you'll find us on there. We're very active on there, so you won't miss us. And yeah, email. So you can email myself and I'll share those contact details with you. And yeah, joining the mailing list is probably the best way. And our website's great because we've got a what's on section and all of our events are listed on there. So yeah, you can keep up to date with what we're doing and you can get involved on our website.
Fabulous. Well, I can personally vouch for it being an incredible evening. So definitely get yourself down to the next Wigmore Wednesdays event, wherever that may be. I know that new cities are being added as we speak. So Eleanor, thank you for coming on Focus on Why and sharing what it is that you are focusing on right now and by the sounds of it, for the indefinite future. So it's been an absolute joy to hear your story. And I'm so thrilled to hear the inspiring story that it is. And I know many others will be inspired to understand what it is that's driving them, what it is that is at the core of who they are, and to make that change if it's needed, to not take or continue and challenge that status quo just as you have, and to really turn that next chapter into one that is meaningful for them. So thank you for doing that. Do you have some final words, please, for the listener?
Yeah, I would say if you are listening to this and you are at a bit of a crossroads and you don't really know what you want to do, but you're not happy, is believe in yourself. That is the most like self-belief is your superpower. So harness it and spread your wings and go, right? Because anything is possible. Obviously, if you are going through anything or something doesn't feel quite right, do talk to people. I wish I had talked to people sooner than I had, and I probably wouldn't have endured the pain that I did for as long as I did and continue in a way to do. So talk to someone if something doesn't feel right. You can always contact me and I can point you in the right direction of someone who can help if you don't feel like you want to talk to people that you already know. And the other thing, the last piece of thing is I feel so strongly about this. Life is so short. I know people say this all the time, but like it really is. And you only get one chance. So if you are not happy doing what you're doing, go and spend all your time finding out what it is that will make you happy. Because when you enter that zone, which I am lucky enough to have found at the young age of 30, some people get to 50 and they're like, I had someone come up to me at a conference recently and go, I've watched what you've done. It's inspired me. Just turned 50. He was like, I'm going to go off and do my own thing. I'm like, go and do it. The only person that is stopping you is you. And once you set foot, that first step is the hardest, but the minute you make that change, everything becomes possible. So go and follow your dreams is my advice, not the dreams of someone else. Find out what you want to do and go and follow that.
That's a wrap for today, but the journey doesn't end here. Share your takeaways, leave a review, or post your insights. Your voice helps others discover the value of these stories. Want to dive deeper into purpose? Check the show notes for ways to work with me. Get a copy of my book or to sign up for Friday Focus, my weekly newsletter packed with clarity and inspiration. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why.